Return of the Mount Hua Sect. Chapter 260. What opened? Soft sunlight was coming through the window, and there was a pleasant sound of birds chirping. Hyunjung slowly opened his eyes and stared out the window from where the light was pouring in. After a while, he took off the white blanket on him and sat comfortably as he looked around. It is today. Finally, the morning of their departure to Mount Song had arrived. After washing his face lightly, Hyunjung looked at the clothes placed in front of him. A black robe with the symbol of the plum blossoms. The color of the clothes, reflected by the light, made them look luxurious. It was done by Hyunjung, who insisted on bringing in new clothes. Hyunjung smiled a little. He must consider this such an important event. A place where the Mount Hua Sect would appear in front of others for the first time in several decades. He didn't know why, but no one in Mount Hua wanted to be underestimated. Dressed in the robe, he fastened his girdle several times, and then he closed his eyes. Are any more preparations needed? No, all the preparations are done. He let out a small sigh. For the past year, Hyunjung and the elders have been very busy. In fact, they were literally sleeping with their eyes open sometimes, just so they could be confident in participating in this competition. But why? Hyunjung looked at the door with dull eyes. Then he sighed as he took a trembling step. The door opened slowly, and he sighed as he looked at the clear sky. Sect leader, are you ready? Yes. Eunam was standing there and greeted him. The disciples are ready and waiting for the sect leader. Already? Today is the day. I can't imagine everyone would have slept that well. It is such a long way though. It would be best to rest well before their long journey, but he couldn't blame his disciples. Even Hyunjung couldn't sleep well because of his excitement and nervousness. Hyunjung, who wore his emotions on his sleeve, could understand what the young disciples were going through. Let's go. Yes, sect leader. Eunam took the lead, and Hyunjung quietly followed him by looking at the sky. The weather is great. Clear. No, I should avoid that expression. It is a bright sky that seems to be blessing us on our way. To make our steps feel lighter. Huh? No, it is nothing. Hyunjung groaned unknowingly. Oh my. And when he finally reached the place, he took a deep breath and climbed up the podium. The elders were all waiting. It was all good so far. Good so far. In front of the podium, the second and third class disciples who had been working very hard were present. They had worked hard and trained without a single groan. No, actually, there were a lot of complaints. But seeing how they didn't give up and followed the training, he was proud. Without strength, he walked to the front of the podium and looked at the disciples and then closed his eyes. Where do they even look like the disciples of a Taoist sect? When he opened his eyes, he looked at the disciples again. They had wide shoulders. They had clenched hands and tough muscles which could be seen through their clothes. It was good till now. Those bulging chests and the copper skin and the face that looked grim at first. But is such murderous intent gleaming from the eyes of these Taoist disciples? Who would think they are Taoists? If someone who knew nothing entered Mount Hua now, they would throw down their precious things and beg for their lives. If not, there would be a sound of how Mount Hua had changed. No, Hyunjung looked at the person who caused all this. Behind the disciples who had lined up, the feeling that something he had built had collapsed would come as he looked at Chungmyung. Chungmyung, who was just sitting there, looked around normally. What is with the sect leader's face? Why have that expression on such a good day? You are the problem, you brat. Seeing Hyunyoung smile proudly at Chongmyung made Hyunjong's stomach hurt. Are you all ready? Yes, sect leader. Please say one word. One word? What words do I say? Let's have some meat and drinks tonight because we are sure to do a good job. Take down every opponent. Hyunjong looked at the proud but ignorant disciples of Mount Hua, shedding tears while looking at the sky. Is this fine? Is this really okay? Ancestors. My Mount Hua. Sect leader. Yes. Hyunjong coughed loudly and said, whatever the circumstances were, they would depart today. Even if it was just a few words, for all the children who had worked hard, he had to inspire them. Everyone has gone through so much. Too much. They must have suffered a lot, and those bastards must have made you feel like you were on some battlefield to turn your faces into this. Not at all, sect leader. We did not suffer. We will break the heads of those old bastards. The sad thing was that the person who said those words wasn't Chongmyung. This isn't Mount Hua. This is the Chongmyung sect. If these people were sent to Luoyang or anywhere else, it would take less than a month for them to get their hands on the entire place. This competition is to strengthen our friendship with the other sects. First, the idea of meeting. And Hyunyoung smiled. Sect leader. Don't say such things. The kids will laugh. Idiot. You're a Taoist. How can you say that? Let's end it quickly. Anyway, if someone else sees this, they would think that the sect leader doesn't want to go. Finish it. Is that so? Hyunyoung stepped ahead and said, today, we move to Mount Song. Is everyone confident? Yes. Don't worry, Elder. Hyunyoung nodded. Everyone, check if you have everything you need. All disciples, check your luggage too. With those words, the Yun disciples who were standing on one side began to move. Hyunyoung, who got a glimpse of it, spoke with strong eyes. The place we are going now is a place where all sects will gather. Every action you take and every look you make, it will all be a factor that Mount Hua gets evaluated on. So, everyone's appearance, all of you. Everyone turned around, and at the end of all their gazes was Chongmyung. Huh? Why me? No reason. Somehow, I just thought that I should look at you. Chongmyung smiled. Why are you doing this? There's no one as gentle as me in this sect. Check this brat out. I really want to bury him. Perhaps it was because they were tormented by Chongmyung for 6 months, but the eyes of the disciples who were now glaring at him looked venomous. Even Tang So-so, who had just entered Mount Hua, was glaring at him. Hyunyoung looked at this horrifying scene with warm eyes. Once you are ready, let's go. Yes! Be careful. As the disciples standing in front stepped forward, the disciples in the back cheered for them. Don't even think about coming back if you lose. Crawl back from Mount Song if you lose. Try losing and I will show you hell. I will pick a branch and hang you from there. The representatives of Mount Hua smiled warmly at those words. What was that, you weak bastard? Sweep the yard well. At such a heartwarming sight, Hyunjong smiled warmly. Mount Hua is ruined. Now I am sure of it. How did this happen in just 6 months? How am I supposed to face my ancestors once I die? What are you thinking? Everyone will praise you. Huh? Look at them. Hyunjong looked at the disciples. Isn't this the moment of a prestigious sect? Hyunjong, I think the prestigious sect I know and the ones you know are quite different. Hyunjong took a deep breath. However, there was one reason he could be confident. Certainly, we walk out with great force behind us. He felt confident enough to walk with his shoulders wide, and this wasn't baseless confidence. Now, they moved with knife-like force. A force that was ready to fight anywhere and anyone. It was something that couldn't be imagined in the past. Even the 9 great sects will have to admit it once they see these kids. Mount Hua is no longer a declining sect. Hyunjong nodded his head. Everyone, let's move. The gold letter they received from the Shaolin sect. 40 people could accompany them with the gold letter. Everyone couldn't obviously go, so they took only a few of them. Although there were concerns, Hyunjong chose to take more children from the Baek and Chong disciples in the end. For Mount Hua, this competition wasn't just to show off their skills. This was a chance for the children of Mount Hua to experience a wider world. So, Hyunjong wanted more disciples and fewer elders and undisciples with him. Eunam. Yes, I am sorry. Not at all, sect leader. Eunam smiled. Going to Mount Song and making a name for Mount Hua is important, but protecting Mount Hua here is equally important. Don't worry and move ahead. Yes, I trust you. Hyunjong smiled warmly as if he felt at ease. You, deal only with what you can in your old age. Why are you leaving me here? And he shook his head. Hyunjong, who was supposed to remain in Mount Hua and take care of the sect in place of Hyunjong, said he would follow them. So Eunam turned into the temporary sect leader. Now, there were a total of 4 elders going to the Shaolin sect, including 3 Hyun disciples, and apart from them, there was also Eungam to take care of the children. Aren't there too few people to manage the disciples? Will that be fine? Well, Hyunjong smiled, looking at the children carrying all their bags. Still, Baekchun was standing in the front. It warmed his heart to see Baekchun newly dressed in the plum blossom robe. Wasn't this the image of a Mount Hua swordsman he had always dreamed of? The appearance of Yunjong and Jogul standing next to him also showed stability. Right, it isn't all a bad thing. If one was a sect leader, they needed to look at their disciples with a good eye. First of all, he had to trust the children. Should we go? I cannot do this. I cannot stand Chongmyung constantly poking his head from behind and bringing down the pride I have in Mount Hua. Chongmyung, yes? Why didn't you change your clothes? Because they're new. Right. So why haven't you worn them yet? Chongmyung smiled. It'll be dusty on the way. I'll change into them when we get there. Smart. Right. Chongmyung is really smart. Right. He is smart and he knows how things work. But Hyunjong just closed his eyes tightly and turned his head since he knew that expecting such a thing from Chongmyung was futile. Let's go. Yes! He turned and stepped in front of the gate of Mount Hua. Behind him, the elders and disciples followed, and behind them were the other disciples. Step, step. Hyunjong, who was advancing with decisive steps, stopped in front of the gate and then looked at it. Hyunsang and Hyunyong were silent. It was because they knew why the sect leader had stopped. It has been decades since he became the sect leader of Mount Hua. However, he had never once left the sect during all this time for a proper cause. Until now, he had only left Mount Hua to beg for money and to plead with the debtors. So this feeling was bound to be new for him. This step was equivalent to the first step he was taking outside Mount Hua in so long. Knowing this, no one urged him. A little time passed. Hyunjong, who had been looking at the gate, heard a voice. Sect leader! Hyunjong didn't even look back as he knew who the owner of this voice was. This will be a historic step for Mount Hua. Hyunjong smiled. That bastard. Let's go. Hyunjong finally took a step without any regrets. Cheers came out from the other excited disciples. Win and come back! Sect leader! Elders! Come back in good health! Come back after making a name for Mount Hua in the world! Chongmyung, let's party when you come back! Which bastard said that? The disciples and others all proudly descended amidst the cheers. It was a very little thing. But for Gangho, this would be the starting point of a big change. The place the small crowd headed to was Mount Song, where the Shaolin sect was located.